Good day, and welcome to World Beyond War's 5th Annual War Abolisher Awards. We are very pleased to have an incredible list of awardees this year. My name is Robert Fantina, and I serve on the board of World Beyond War. We are recording this event. If you are not a speaker or host, you will be unable to unmute. However, we will send you the recording and all related materials that are discussed during the course of the event. We will hear from our 3 awardees, and then they will address questions from the audience. Please use the chat function to write your questions at any point during the event. I want to thank World Beyond War for their work in selecting the awardees and sponsoring this event, and Roots Action for their support. Roots Action is an organization dedicated to galvanizing people who are committed to economic fairness, equal rights for all, civil liberties, environmental protection, and defunding endless wars. Roots Action mobilizes on these issues no matter whether the Democrats or Republicans control Washington. Now for the awards. Co-founder and executive director of World Beyond War, David Swanson, will be presenting the first award. David's dedication to ending the institution of war in the world is unparalleled. David?
Thank you, Bob. I am extremely excited to present the Artistic War Abolisher of 2025 award to Roger Waters for his incredibly powerful combination of songwriting, singing, speaking, and performing against the horrors of war. Roger Waters' music and lyrics have been tremendously meaningful to many millions of people for decades. He co-founded Pink Floyd 60 years ago this year, back in 1965, the same year in which another of our awardees published a book called Unsafe at Any Speed, and 12 years before our other 2025 awardee was born. When a wall lover like Donald Trump starts holding fascistic weapons parades and snatching people off streets, images and concepts and the music of the wall are part of what we recognize and resist. A member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a top-selling musical artist, a performer able to fill the largest arenas, Roger Waters not only brings anti-war and pro-peace messages to that enormous audience, not only integrates brutally honest activism into his concerts, speeches, and social media posts, but it is his music, his lyrics, his satire, his multimedia performances that constitute his most powerful activism. Roger has created music that can make one hate war, fear nuclear apocalypse, and want to celebrate and be like peace proponents. I don't want to recite any lyrics to you because they have to be heard in the music, but go back or go for the first time and listen. For the past couple of decades, Roger Waters has made opposition to occupation and genocide a major part of his work. Following my remarks and his, we will listen to a new song that Roger calls Sumud. This is a Palestinian concept meaning steadfastness in resistance to oppression, an insistence on continuing to live in the face of an organized campaign to eliminate you. The world could use a lot more Sumud. It could also use a lot more of this new song, so it will be a public service to share this video. In recent years, we have seen a huge growth and possibly a peak followed by decline in recent months, if I'm not being too hopeful, in the absurd practice of labeling opposition to genocide a form of bigotry, specifically anti-Semitism. This ridiculous smear has been heavily employed against Roger Waters, who has had events canceled because of it. Protests of genocide have subsequently been labeled terrorism. An organization called Palestine Action, which avoids harming people but does harm to weapons of mass killing, was recently banned by the British Parliament, which made it a crime to express support for Palestine Action. Roger Waters immediately expressed support for Palestine Action. He denounced the ludicrous labeling as terrorism of something that is not terrorism, namely opposing terrorizing the people of Gaza. He did this at the risk of a lengthy prison sentence. Why, I ask you, would anyone go looking to the makers of war for heroism? If you need bravery, there is plenty of it to be found in those taking risks like Roger Waters is for peace. Your work, Roger, is advancing our goals of demilitarizing security, managing conflict without violence, and building a culture of peace. Your work is part of a culture of peace that exists together with a culture of war. We are happy to do our bit to support the peace culture over the war culture by presenting you with this award. We would now like to let you tell us what you are thinking, after which we will give your new song a listen. And at the end of this program, there will be time for questions and answers. So people can go ahead and put their questions into the chat at any time. Roger Waters, the floor is yours.
Wow, David, that was extremely eloquent, my friend. And I'm feeling a bit lip trembly because your little speech has moved me, to the bottom of my heart. To be, look, I've got my award here. I'm going to pick it up because I'm proud of it. There it is. This is the little beauty here. Okay, and the extreme honor that it is to be on a list of three people that include Ralph Nader and Francesca Albanese moves me almost to tears. So as you can see, I have there's a painting behind me, if anybody watching this, of Francesca Albanese. Not hugely flattering, but a beautiful, because she's a very beautiful woman, as we know, but a beautiful painting done by our good friend from Melbourne, Australia, Caitlin Johnston, the great blogger and great supporter of all the work that you do and that all the people working for peace in this world do and have been doing for all of these years. It's interesting that you should talk about me being attacked by the Jonathan Greenblatts of this world, and in fact the whole Israeli lobby, which I have been fairly severely for the last 20 years or so, since I started this work. We had some screenings of a show that I did in Prague last year, and they happened last night. And I had one scheduled at a cinema in Sag Harbor, which is just down the road from where I'm living here, in New York State. And they got at the board of the NGO that runs Sag Harbor Cinema it was, and they cancelled it. So the lobby cancelled the screening of my film, to which I had invited many, many friends that I have here. Lots of caddies and people who work at some of the golf clubs here who are friends with me for obvious reasons, because I do play golf, in case any of you are wondering why I might be friends with caddies. So anyway, I'm extremely miffed about this, and I will be fighting back in the local press here and so on and so forth. I've got a little thing that I want to read in a minute, because apropos of what you were saying earlier, it reminds me of how this. By the way, when I was on tour, when we filmed the thing, it's called "This Is Not a Drill," the tour that I did, and the movie that we've just released was filmed in Prague. They tried to cancel every single show that I did in Germany. And when I got to South America, many people know this, but many people watching won't know. They started a campaign which succeeded. They would not allow me to stay in a hotel in Argentina or, weirdly, in Colombia, though I did have a very good meeting with Gustavo Petro, who I like very much and who's a very good man. In fact, I asked him when I had a meeting with him in Bogota, even though I wasn't allowed to stay in a hotel in his country, I said to him, why haven't you brought up the Genocide Convention? And this is before the South Africans did, by the way. And he doesn't speak English and I don't speak Spanish. So this was through a translator, and the translator was grinning when he was translating. The reason that Gustavo Petro didn't evoke the Genocide Convention to condemn the Israelis for the genocide going on in Gaza was because he does not have control of his foreign office. It is controlled by the ruling class in Lima, No, sorry, not in Lima. That's Peru. It's a kind of similar story, but by the ruling class in Colombia. And they actually control the Foreign Office. So even though he's the president, he cannot he doesn't have control over things like evoking the Genocide Committee. I know I'm rambling a bit, and I'm going to stop rambling because we don't want to go on and on and on. What I wanted to read. And I'm very glad you're playing my new song. By the way, Sumud, this new song, this is only a demo that you're going to play today. This isn't a finished article because it does not yet have the voices of the choir to which I refer in it. And because the choir is all of us all over the world, all the ordinary people protesting the genocide in Gaza, and all the other wars and all the other unnecessary pain and suffering that is meted out to us by the ruling class and their oligarchs. So I'll say no more about that, but I look forward to people hearing it. This I came across because I looked for it in poems. And this is something that I wrote in 2004. It's a poem I wrote in 2004, but I published it at one point, and I've now realized that it was in 2011. What happened in 2011 that made me publish a 7-year-old poem was Occupy Wall Street. So I wrote this little letter. It says, I wrote this poem in disgust in 2004 when G.W. Bush was elected for a second term. Times have changed, question mark. I hope so. I am determined to visit Occupy Wall Street this week. You are the beautiful and proud, because in the poem I refer to young people as being beautiful and proud. All right, I'm going to read the poem if I may, and then I'll shut up. I don't want to bang on for hours now. It's called, it just says 2004, a second term. Why cannot the good prevail? Here in America, there is at heart a people just and true, open sometimes to the point of ridicule, good neighbors to rebuild the barn, the doctor's note of Western legend carried forth beyond the grave. I knew your pa enough. In caucuses across the land, deliberate they'll always stand, defenders of the Rosenbergs, symbolic of that yearning to be better than before. They never will give up their brother to the grocer's cold machine, belt welts livid from the strong arm of the law. On campuses, in boardrooms, over giving thanks and pumpkin pie, on hustings in committee rooms, whenever tyrants loomed, we always held in our esteem the ones who hold on to the dream, unflinching, while the bullies pose and fiddle on the hill. Has commerce so reduced the free that, blinded like a tot, contaminated by the dog shit in the grass, you blunder slaves to humbug and this Texan dynasty? No. Beyond the grip of trade, the young strain beautiful and proud, the hoarfrost breath of new blood needs but nudges from the old forgotten guard to scale the moral high grounds in the clouds. So hats off to you, Ralph Nader, and hats off to you, Francesca Albanese, and hats off to you, David, for all the work that you do. And that's all I have to say. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wonderfully said. Thank you. Everyone's muted, so you can't hear their applause. But let's listen to this new song now, if I can manage to share the audio and the written lyrics. And see, let me know if it sounds and looks clear.
there is a word in Arabic, Sumud. It means steadfast perseverance. Particularly in resistance to the occupation of your homeland. I just want that thing. When voices join in harmony, and in that fleeting moment, when meaning coalesces there, all dark dissolving, clouds the alleyways no more. And fresh bread scent of home pervades the air. No sandal soles in dust of broken homes peep bloody from the garment hem. And all the big parades and shock and awe and swagger on the carrier deck, and medals jangle helpless in the face of what is fair. Give me an oh yeah. Join us in harmony. I remember you well, where you stood, where you fell. You were brutally slain, but your spirits remain. Rachel Curry and Shireen Abu Akleh. Mariella Franco, Sophie Skoll, Anne Frank, Iman Al-Hams. Many sisters from many lands. Oh, my sisters, help me to open their eyes. From up in the penthouse, we must all look like ants to them. Wake up, motherfuckers, we are women and men. Well up, unashamed, my bleeding heart. Give me an oh yeah. Give me an oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Give me an oh yeah. Join us. Join us in harmony. And then, across the great divide, come men and women, unafraid, to dash in laws, their bracelets at the wall. When voices join in harmony, and we turn the final page. When man evolves beyond the crass, comes of age. And dogma and witchcraft and cant and propaganda and Palantir, Lockheed, Grumman and Chevron and Exxon and Pfizer and the oligarchs and miners that say, we're sorry that we done it, mummy. We only done it for the fucking money. Oh yeah! Just for the money. Oh yeah! Just for the cash. When voices join in harmony, we will make a joyful sound. We will follow our own moral compass. We won't let their sleight of hand trump us. We will find 10,000 new voices in every crowd. And when all those new voices join us in harmony, standing shoulder to shoulder, from the river to the sea, people from every nation will hear that joyful sound. Ordinary people, just standing their ground. And together, these ordinary people, together, they will turn this ship around. Oh yeah. Together. Oh yeah. Together we will turn this ship around.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Roger. I am seldom at a loss for words, but I can't really express how meaningful and impactful that song is to me. And I thank you for your great work over the years. If anyone has questions for Roger, please put them in the chat. Okay, Hanaya Jodat will be presenting the second award. Hanaya is Roots Action Senior Partnership Coordinator. She's an Iranian-American activist and one of the founding members of the Women's March Los Angeles and a former board member of Women's March California and LA. She currently serves as the National Director of Lift the Sanctions campaign and has been recognized by the National Iranian American Council as one of the 40 Iranians under 40 to inspire the community. Hanaya?
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, David. Thank you, Roger, Ralph, Edward, those of you who are here tonight or today with us. I'm deeply, deeply honored to be nominated by Roots Action to present Individual War Abolisher of 2025 Award to Francesca Albanese. There comes a time when silence is betrayal. Those are words by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Today we come together not simply to present an award, but to bear witness to courage, to truth, and to a voice that has never trembled, even when the world has demanded silence. Francesca Albanese's journey began in the hills of southern Italy, where as a young child, she sat at the dinner table, listening to stories not meant for children, of Philistine, of Kurdistan, of exile and return. She was just a little girl when the world bore witness to the Sabra and Shatila massacre. Though thousands of miles away, the shadow of that brutality stretched deep into her consciousness, planting the kind of questions only a child raised on justice dares to ask. Francesca learned early that the struggle for dignity begins with the quiet rebellion of asking why and refusing the answer because that's just the way it is. She was born into a family where the law was not only a profession, but a compass for humanity. Lessons of justice weren't abstract. They were blueprints that shaped the woman who would one day stand tall, not behind the safety of process and protocol, but besides the oppressed. Where bombs fall, where hope is barricaded, where the right to exist is debated in the halls of power. As the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the Palestinian territories, Francesca has spoken truths others have feared to whisper. She has dared to call apartheid not a controversy, but a crime. She has named colonization and genocide for what they are. And she has declared, without a compromise, that life itself should never be political. When the most powerful have sanctioned her, when propaganda campaigns have roared more loudly than the cries of Palestinian mothers and fathers, children, and those occupied in the West Bank, Francesca has reminded us, silencing those who speak of justice does not make injustice disappear. At a time when principles and dignity are traded for politics, when the loudest voices echo the wrong truths, when standing still feels safer than standing up, and in a world that rewards indifference over courage, Francesca has become a map, a mirror, and a megaphone for the dispossessed and displaced. Francesca, although you can't be here with us today, your words have become lifelines, your presence a promise, your defiance a shield. You remind us that we will not be silenced and we will not stand down. And so, it is with a full heart, deepest gratitude, and unwavering solidarity that we honor your courage tonight. For your bravery, your brilliance, and your relentless pursuit of a world without war, where no mother and father carry pieces of their child's body in a bag, where no child dies waiting in line for food, and where no family watches their dreams starve. We honor you. On behalf of World Beyond War and the partner organizations, and all of us who believe that peace is not a passive thing, but it's revolutionary, I am proud to present you the Individual War Abolisher of 2025 Award.
Thank you, Hanea. Unfortunately, Francesca was not able to be with us today, but hopefully we'll hear from her soon. But thank you for your very insightful words about her upbringing and her work today.
Bravo.
Thank you. Edward Horgan will be presenting the third and final of this year's awards. Ed is a member of the board of directors of World Beyond War. He's based in Ireland. Ed retired from the Irish military rank of commandant after 22 years. He has worked on over 20 election monitoring missions in Eastern Europe, the Balkans, Asia, and Africa. He is International Secretary with the Irish Peace and Neutrality Alliance, chairperson and founder of Veterans for Peace Ireland, and a peace activist with Shannon Watch. Ed?
Thank you very much, Rob. I am deeply honored to be asked to present the David Harsow Lifetime Individual War Abolishers 2025 Award to Ralph Nader. While Ralph Nader is still doing dramatically more than most people, he has already done enough for many lifetimes. World Beyond War is presenting you, Ralph Nader, with this award for your brilliant and relentless advocacy and for your work towards educating, organizing, analyzing, and criticizing war and related war crimes and abuses by governments and other powerful organizations and individuals. For decades, you have worked strategically and urgently for peace, justice, fairness, and accountability. You have opposed wars regardless of the political party of each imperial US president. Indeed, you have been a leading critic and opponent of the existence of the imperial presidency, as you have pushed for taking the power of mass murder, of even the power of planetary destruction, out of the hands of any individual. You have worked tirelessly to organize and strategize against the crime of war. War is a war crime. You have been a leading creator and supporter of activist organizations, having founded over 4 dozen nonprofits. You have organized countless coalitions around a comprehensive platform without omitting peace. In fact, you have been a champion of peace. Unsafe at Any Speed came out 60 years ago this year and has been followed by numerous books, many of them aimed at empowering people. But the collection covers many themes, including, I believe, one really good cookbook. Your organizing and strategizing, combined with your ceaseless promotion and encouragement of the work of other organizations and individuals, has done wonders for those seeking to hold governments and its profiteers to account. That the war on Iraq was made, at least for a time, a badge of shame for its supporters. That wars on Iran and Syria were held off by public pressure. That US public opinion has moved significantly against militarism. You have been a big part of this progress. Your support over the years for whistleblowers has had its impact as well. One of the many pieces of legislation you have been a key to passing was the Whistleblowers Protection Act. You've been a leading critic of corporate media and its governmental supporters, and a prominent debunker of propaganda. You held everyone to the highest standards, including in numerous columns on Gaza, notably including powerful questioning of the official death counts. And for over a decade, you have shared voices on your radio that could not be found elsewhere. Your columns regularly recommended lists of books that had been invaluable to many. Your writing and speaking have advanced our goals of demilitarizing security, managing conflict without violence, and building a culture of peace. We are honoring you, Ralph Nader, for your lifelong work. It is clear to us as members of World Beyond War that this work is not at an end, nor has its far-reaching influence. Your writing has made known a great many activist success stories through which you have encouraged all of us on the responsibility of living as good members of society. Your most recent book, published just a few months ago, entitled Civic Self-Respect. I will borrow a quote from a description of your book. Civic self-respect argues the importance to recognize the centrality in the development of a civic personality, as distinguished from a private personality, with the two coexisting for a moral life, participating in the common good. Ralph, your lifelong work is known and respected, not only in the United States, but worldwide, including in Ireland, where I come from. Thank you, Ralph, for what you have achieved so far, and please continue with your good work. Now it's your turn to tell us, Ralph, what you're thinking, but many, many thanks to you for all you have done.
Well, thank you very much for those wonderful, generous words, and thank Without War, World Beyond War, a world where the vast majority of people want peace and a tiny minority revel in war, its preparation, and its profits. And yet, this vast majority of people all over the world who want peace are not prevailing. In our country, we have a death cult. We have now no concept of distinguishing between even defensive and aggressive wars. We engage in aggressive wars. We really have no real military enemy in the world. We're looking for military enemies to sustain the $1 trillion Pentagon military industrial complex budget every year. And so awards such as have been given to Roger and Francesca and me today should be occasions to galvanize more forces in motion for peace. And I have a number of suggestions. First, we all know about Amy Goodman's program, Democracy Now!, the War and Peace Report. Have you seen much about peace day after day in her program? It's all about war, massacres, killings, genocides from the mass murderer Netanyahu in Palestine, the Ukraine, Sudan, elsewhere, Democratic Republic of Congo. She doesn't have much to report about peace. And our objective as a civic community is to provide material, activities, events, laced with relentless strategies and public skills at communication. So I suggest the following. Congress is the principal instrument for the American people for peace. It has turned itself into an instrument of war, an ink blot, surrendering its constitutional authorities, including the War Declaration Clause of the Constitution, to the presidency in the White House under both parties. Resurrecting Congress should not be an insuperable task. Remember, it's by far the most powerful branch of government. It's not just a co-equal. It's the branch of government that has the exclusive taxing power, the appropriation spending power, the investigatory power, the confirmation power, and on and on. It has great advantages for a democratic resurgence from the people back home. First of all, there are only 535 of them, senators and representatives, and their names are well known. And there's one thing they want more than campaign cash from corporate PACs, and that's your vote. So the issue is to transform your vote into a collective force so that these votes are weighted with demands, with reciprocity. They are not just given to legacy Republican or legacy Democratic voters carte blanche. What does it take? The great secret of democracy is that it takes 1% or less. Listen to this. This is a lesson of history, American history. It takes 1% or less of the American people organized in each congressional district, volunteering, say 500 hours a year, opening an office with 2 full-time staff. We're talking 2.5 million people. Once they get underway on any issue, including, of course, these peace issues, the reviving of nuclear arms treaties, the extension of them before they expire, the reinstallation of them, if you want one front burner agenda. If 1% or less know what they're talking about, they're accurate. Number two, they reflect public opinion. There's huge public opinion in this country for peace. It has no cutting edge, though, until it mobilizes in Congress. And number three, the focus of all these efforts by the 1% will be on Congress. That's the decision making. That's the body that can end all the wars. That's the body that can stop them from beginning. Remember, the Vietnam War finally ended when Congress cut off the money under Nixon, just like that. And Congress can always cut off the money. Now, given the Constitution, given the composition of Congress today, under the rubber stamp of Trump Republicans, one can start prejudging defeat before the resurgence from the public even begins. Remember, politicians, once they see their likelihood of failure in the next election, will abandon any president, no matter how dominant. Richard Nixon won 49 states in 1972. He came in at 60% in the public opinion poll, far higher on both counts than Trump in 2024. Yet less than 2 years later, a delegation of Republican senators took the limousine to the White House, and they said, Mr. President, your time is up. You've lost your base. It's time to resign. And in a few days, he did what everybody thought was unthinkable, that he would never quit. He quit. And so, back to the agenda. Number one, there needs to be immediate shadow congressional hearings. The Democrats are in the minority, but nobody can keep them from holding informal hearings in committee rooms in the House and Senate. In this case, the House Armed Services, House Foreign Relations, and their counterpart committees in the Senate. The hearing should be on a national peace policy and all the work that has to be done on these expiring or suspended nuclear arms treaties with Russia and other countries around the world. Nuclear, chemical, biological, a new one on cyber security is needed, and of course many more treaties on climate violence, on pandemics, on all the things that the 99.9% of the global peoples want done for their families and their future. All over the world, U.S. can take the lead via Congress. Once there are hearings, you can have witnesses. Once there are witnesses, the media will start reporting. The media, and there are over 500 full-time reporters on Congress, they don't have much to cover. They got a rubber stamp speaker. He's like a weak-kneed sycophant of dangerous Donald Trump. Mike Johnson doesn't have a mind of his own, has even adjourned the House early, shut down the entire House of Representatives so that there doesn't have to be a vote on the Epstein file. Imagine, never in American history has a speaker wallowed in such surrender of his oath to the Constitution and the independence of the legislative branch. Once these hearings are held, you will see people coming out from all over the country, experts, scholars, advocates, mobilizers, organizers, because they have a focus. There's no focus now. There are no bills, HR so-and-so, Senate so-and-so. And these hearings can be held immediately. Now, already, these hearings have been held on other subjects, like Elizabeth Warren held one and got press on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau demise under Trump, curtsying to the corporate criminals in Wall Street, is what Trump has done here. And there have been several others. So you're underway already. You don't have to persuade the Democrats to do something they've never done before. Believe it or not, they're starting to wake up. And there are several dozen who will be very powerful ambassadors for the cause of peace to get underway. The second is to have a strategy meeting. And David Swanson knows what's this all about. We're not talking about a big convention. We're talking about a small strategy meeting, people from all walks of life, people who are veterans for peace, advocates, for example, people from the Quaker and Unitarian movements who have long been in the vanguard, as well as people from a variety of backgrounds. And I'll give you an illustration. In the run-up to the criminal war against Iraq by Bush and Cheney, in the early weeks of that this decisive year of death and destruction for the innocent Iraqi people, we were part of an effort to try to reach George W. Bush, who was insulating himself from everything except the warmongers and neocons surrounding him. So we had letters requesting meetings from the National Council of Churches, veterans organizations, business organizations, retired intelligence organizations, student groups, and a whole host of others, maybe 12 or 14 requests from people representing tens of millions of Americans. Please, President Bush, give us a few minutes of our time. Some of us have been over to Iraq. We know the disaster you're heading for the Iraqi people. Not a single acknowledgement, not a single response. All of these letters were released to the press. Press blacked out everything. Imagine, these are groups representing millions of Americans. Labor groups, for example, were among them. Unions. And so this is what we're confronting. Now, when there is a shadow hearing, you don't have that much trouble with the press because it's a quasi-official function of the number 2 party in Congress, and we should take advantage of it. And in so doing, we will be assembling large numbers of people who will come out of the shadows and of despair that they have been experiencing year after year under both political parties. And you'll develop a constituency. Remember, of all people, Ronald Reagan took the lead with Gorbachev on an arms control treaty. Because when he saw several 100,000 people walking down Park Avenue in New York or in Washington, D.C., he said, looks like there's a lot of Republicans in those marches. And he came to his senses. At the time, we thought he was the least likely person to want to meet with Gorbachev to hammer out an arms control treaty. As the Bulletin of American Scientists tells us, we're about the closest to midnight as that clock has ever registered. We now have increasing tension with Russia over Ukraine. We have provocations in East Asia. We have force projection dominating the Pentagon mindset and the rubber stamp congressional committees. It is very true, as some military analysts have pointed out, that when you're constantly budgeting for war, preparing for war, developing more weapons of mass destruction for war, you're going to get war. And it's going to come to the United States. The era of isolation by the two oceans is about over. And you can imagine what this will do to our country under a fascist dictator who knows exactly how to turn any kind of domestic turmoil or attack into an even more devastating dictatorial regime than he is now installing at an unprecedented level. So thank you very much for this award. It galvanizes people, and we should take advantage of the opportunities now that present themselves. And as Abraham Lincoln once said, these are times when we have to think anew. Indeed, we have to think anew. We've left the field of comedy between nations to the aggressive warmongers around the world, led, unfortunately, by the U.S. empire. We have all kinds of domestic needs that can receive the reductions in the military budget to rebuild our country. Schools, mass transit, clinics, renewable energy installations, in communities all over the country, the proverbial bridges and highways that are crumbling. We have a lot of jobs to be created, and in those communities, there will be the Chamber of Commerce, the labor unions, just about everybody will be for a transfer of funds from militarization and huge waste and bloated budgets for Lockheed Martins and Boeing and General Dynamics and Raytheon into construction, renovation, and providing more excellent public services in communities throughout the country. Remember one thing, it takes no more than 1%. I looked over American history, even the civil rights movement never had more than 1% of active people behind that quest for justice. And that is the fountainhead of optimism. Once you have the 1% or so, and there are community colleges and universities and all kinds of institutions in every congressional district, people of good intentions looking to connect with one another. Once you have that, once they know what they're talking about, once they reflect growing public opinion, there's a lot of left-right opinion for peace. Don't let the polarization, divide and rule cliques mislead you. There's huge left-right support for all kinds of domestic safety net programs, from child tax credit extension to minimum wage to universal health care, cracking down on corporate crooks bleeding hundreds of billions of dollars from hard-earned consumer dollars and savings, taxing the rich undertaxed. That comes in at 85%. Most of these come in over 70, 75%. It's a lot of conservative values. Increasing Social Security benefits by increasing the taxes on the rich, Social Security taxes, that comes in very high and will be supported by over 62 million retirees. We have a lot of opportunities. We've got to shut down these screens on our iPhones and start meeting one another personally at neighborhoods, living rooms, auditoriums, outdoor rallies, and above all, developing a formal summons by the people of their members of Congress to come to the people's town meetings, where the agenda for peace is set by the people. And the senators and representatives are listening and responding and being sent back to Congress with their instructions. The summons is something I've written out in my book, which was published about 10 years ago, and which is written out very clearly in formal manner, summoning the senators and representatives. And it's easier than you think. The title of the book is Breaking Through Power. It's easier than we think. And indeed it is, and I give a lot of examples in American history. We've got to stop giving up on ourselves, stop giving up on our posterity's need to confront our own humanity and leadership. And I'll end with Aristotle, who once said, courage is the fundamental basis for all other virtues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ralph, for all your amazing work over the decades, and for the insights you provide us with today. Thank you very much. There have been a number of questions.
You're welcome.
There have been a number of questions put into the chat. Before I mention those, I do want to mention that exceeding the questions have been comments of praise for Roger and Ralph, especially just talking about just thanking you for the work you've done, for the work you continue to do, for your inspiring dedication to the cause of peace and justice. So those have been overwhelming in the comments. So I want to just add my own voice to those and expressing gratitude to both of you, and of course to Francesca, who was unable to be with us today. Okay, so first question is for Roger. Roger, what other musicians and activists do you find are doing great work today, if any? And by great work, the questioner meant social justice.
Well, you know, I hear very few names, I'm sad to say, but clearly in the Palestine Action comments in England, there's the new Bob Villan made that speech about death to the IDF, rather, you know, at Glastonbury, and got castigated for it. And he was dropped by his record company, about all things that have happened to me. So a massive attack have come out in favor of Palestine Action as well. I saw that. Brian Eno is always my comrade. We stand solidly together on everything, with a bunch of us who have been making a noise for the last 20, 25 years or so. The rest of us have been sadly a bit quiet about everything. There is no doubt that anybody in the music industry will find their career a lot more difficult if they come out pro-Palestine, if they come out against the ADL, if they have combative conversations with Jonathan Greenblatt, before him Abe Foxman, who was his predecessor in here. So it's not been easy. I have many colleagues in the industries who've said to me, I really admire what you do. I can't speak up. If I do, that's the end of me. I'm done. They would, whatever. So it is a bit of a battle. What's more interesting is that because of the level of the propaganda that the Israel lobby and the rest, all imperialists, all people supports who have supported settler colonialism and imperialism. I'm not talking about the Roman Empire now. I'm talking about the British Empire mainly. Let us not forget that we Brits led the way through probably the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries, and unremittingly sailed in our big wooden ships around the world and killed everyone that we could find who had anything worth stealing. And what's interesting about the Starmer government now, even though he purports to be the leader of a labor movement, is that they are sticking absolutely to that imperial plan. So the mask is now off. They are saying after the Second World War, when the United Nations was formed in 1945, and then when the Universal Declaration of Human Rights happened in December 1948 and all of that bit, we all said, what a jolly good idea. And we all agreed never again after the Nazi Holocaust and blah, blah, blah. But we didn't actually mean it. We had our fingers crossed behind our backs. We were lying to you. You people, you the people, may have, even maybe one or two of you from the ruling class may have sort of believed it a bit. Possibly Eleanor Roosevelt, as an American, might have believed in human rights. But it's been quite clear in the way that the United States has behaved in the world since the Second World War that actually the ruling class in the United States and in England and and in most of the European countries have no interest in human rights. They believe in the supremacy of an Übermensch class, just like the Nazis did in Germany. So I'm 81 years old. I sort of believed that they believed in human rights. I now know that they didn't. So this is what the younger generations now, who I'm trying to speak to, are faced with. They're faced with that reality. And I'm so proud of them in the universities, in their encampments, standing up, being arrested. There've been hundreds of arrests in England, my country, because people have stood up and say, this new law that calls Palestine action a non-violent protest movement of civil disobedience, a very well-known tradition, is nonsense, because quite clearly it's so obvious to anyone with an IQ above room temperature that Palestine action, it has nothing to do with terrorism or any terrorist, anything. Terrorism, which, as we know, was a sort of a child of 9/11. And God forbid that we should ever actually have an investigation into 9/11, because there never has been one and there never will be one as long as this goes on. For many years, you couldn't even mention 9/11 without being cancelled forever. Well, we now know that it's a crock of shit. The 9/11 investigation wasn't an investigation. It was we don't know what, because nobody is allowed to know anything about it. So we live in very, very difficult times. And I hope that Francesca and I and Ralph and all the rest of us who are involved in peace activism are having at least some kind of marginal effect on the young generation. And I think we are. I feel my song that we all listened to earlier, right? That's what it says. This is about, and Ralph said it as well, billions and billions of us all over the world want peace. We want peace. Who doesn't want peace? The people who make money out of war. It's not rocket science. It's really, really simple. Elon Musk doesn't want peace. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want peace. Donald Trump doesn't want peace. None of the investors in Raytheon or Grumman or Northey or blah, blah, none of them want peace. They make money out of the death and destruction that we want. They make money out of starving children to the point of death and then shooting him in the head via the IDF, via this proxy force that they have that's called the State of Israel. Luckily, we're beginning to stand up and say, no. I'm fascinated by Ralph's idea that somehow Congress can be taken back from AIPAC, because AIPAC never stopped boasting about the fact that they own Congress, and they do. If you go and you talk to all the members of the House of Representatives and say, how much did you take from AIPAC this year? They all took something. And some of them, the Mark Rubios, took millions. They take millions from AIPAC just to make certain that they're going to go on with the murdering of the Palestinian people so they can steal their land. This is all about Western imperialism. And what's happening in Israel is just one new manifestation of that. But people are fighting back. I get reports from Burkina Faso, and from where the local people are beginning to organize and fight back. I have friends in Peru and in Bolivia where the miners are fighting back against the government. Because they're realizing they're suddenly coming to the why do people care what happens in Bolivia? Lithium, darling, lithium. This is what the whole thing is about now. Is what can we steal from people all over the world that'll make us richer? And it's now the pretense that we believed in democracy or freedom of speech or human rights or any of those things that are lauded, for instance, in the Declaration of Independence, 1778 or whenever it was, and the Bill of Rights, they didn't mean a single word. And in fact, of course, Jefferson and they were all slave owners. They didn't believe in human rights. They believed in their rights, and they believed in figuring out a way for them, the ruling class, to continue to control this enormous new world. And they still do, to the great detriment of everyone on the globe. I don't mean to chuckle, but I hope Ralph's right, and that there might be a path through a quasi-democratic progress to wrest Congress back from the plutocrats and oligarchs. Wouldn't that be great?
It would indeed be great. Raj, you talked about how it's so difficult for other artists to speak out. How have your audiences reacted? I've seen videos where they're reacting very enthusiastically when you bring out the Palestinian flag or have the Palestinian lights, Palestine written out behind you. Have you gotten opposition at any of your concerts? Any significant opposition?
Not really. I had one bloke with an Israeli flag who jumped onto the stage, believe it or not, in Frankfurt, in Germany, where the local authority had tried to cancel me, and I'd gone to court with them to prevent them from cancelling my show.
Mhm.
And I explained to them that I knew what had happened in Frankfurt when they rounded up 3,000 Jews, and they put them in that place. It's called the Festhalle. They held them there before they sent them to Auschwitz to murder them. I know about the history of Jews in Germany after Kristallnacht in 1939, and what happened through the Second World War. No, not me. I get the odd Israeli flag occasionally. Usually they get uncomfortable and put them away after a bit, quite rightly, because they're likely to get. I don't know. They won't be treated with any violence, but they won't make any difference. They won't affect the show. The show is unashamedly revolutionary.
Yeah.
Resist war, resist capitalism, resist fascism, and above all, resist genocide. The movie that we made live in Prague came out last night. As I say, it was banned here by the arseholes in the Israeli movement. So, but you just have to roll with the punches. You've got to keep telling the truth, because my opinion is that love and truth, in the end, will overcome hatred and lies, which is all the other side have to offer. And it's becoming more and more and more evident as why we cannot persuade our leaders to step in and say, stop, stop it. Stop murdering those babies in Gaza, you bastards. Or we're going to come in and we're going to burn Parliament to the ground, because that's what should happen. Passing legislation, because some people, some brave young activists have gone into Elbit systems where they make baby killing drones and sprayed red paint and taken a hammer to some of the equipment to tell Elbit systems, we do not want you in England making drones to murder babies, and without harming a hair on anyone's head. Nothing violent, no firearms, no weapons, and giving themselves up when the police come, being taken into court and being sued for criminal damage or whatever the crime is that they have committed. Of course, interestingly enough, if they're ever put before a jury and they have a decent lawyer, the decent lawyer says to the jury, you really should think about what the greater crime is. Is it spraying red paint in somebody's office or taking a hammer to a piece of equipment that's building quadcopter drones to murder children? Or is it the murdering of the children, which is why they're taking this direct action? Which, and the juries, of course, almost to a man, when they've had a jury, have said, yeah, the greater crime is the genocide, the murdering of and starving to death of children, our brothers and sisters. That is the greater crime. Not guilty, my lad, and setting them free, which is what should be. But no, they've decided now to say, oh, Roger Waters has said, I support Palestine action, this non-violent direct action protest movement. So I am now liable, if I go back to the UK, which I will eventually, to a maximum of 14 years in prison for saying the government is wrong. What? I can get 14 years for expressing the opinion that my government has made a mistake by passing a law? That is insane. Just by using language supporting a proscribed terrorist organization, it makes a complete mockery of the English language. Just like the new definitions of anti-Semitism do, the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, that says it's a hate crime to criticize Israel. They're murdering babies. What? It's insane, obviously. But it's going on, and it's going on in front of our eyes. And Netanyahu's on the TV every day saying, yep, and we're going to go on. Amalek, Amalek, Amalek. We're not just going to kill them and their children. We're going to kill all their swine, all their animals, everything. We're going to wipe them from the face of the planet. Why? Because God said we can. What horrible, disgusting nonsense. And we all know it. That's the extraordinary thing. However much Jonathan Greenblatt says, yep, it's in the Bible, must be true. Everybody with a heart and a soul knows it's complete, disgusting bullshit. That there is a moral compass and we are going to sail our ship by it. And we will turn this ship around. What I say in my song, we will turn this ship around. I'm not just determined. I cannot believe that we won't, if you see what I mean. Ralph is right to still be optimistic about being able to turn this. You know, they figured out a lot about propaganda and controlling the mainstream media and how they can get people to do anything they want because we're all malleable. Well, we're not all malleable. And there is a younger generation out there, and they are ready to stand up. And they do need but nudges from the old forgotten guard. And I name myself and my friend Ken Loach and Ralph Nader. But there are hundreds of thousands of us, but all over the world there are billions and billions of people of good heart who are ready to stand up and go, no. So there is hope.
Thank you. I'm glad that both you and Roger have expressed some hope, because there are times when I lose sight of that hope. A couple of the questions came in for you. You mentioned that your concert in New York was canceled because of the town canceled it. Is there any, can a new venue be found for that?
It
And
wasn't
can,
the town. It's not the town. It's the board of Sag Harbor Cinema. Okay.
okay.
Apparently, they consider themselves to be a board of worthy citizens from the town, and the cinema is there to express our cultural needs and blah, 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 blah. It just happens to be run by a bunch of insane Zionists. But I've got a path open. There is one lady on the board who I'm looking forward to speaking to. She's called Wendy Keys, and she worked for Human Rights Watch for a long time. So I can't wait to see. And I believe she tried to change their mind when she heard what was going and failed and said, forget it. It's a fait accompli. They've decided there's no way you can show your film. Well, I'll be interested to hear the rest of her story, because I'm sure she can't have worked for Human Rights Watch for many, many years and run Lincoln Cinema Foundation for many years. Wendy, I'm looking forward to my conversation with you, sweetheart. I really am. No, I really am. And I'm sure it'll be okay. But I may get closer to the truth of what is wrong. Why are they like this? Why can't they see that what they're doing is super evil? I went and stood on the edge of a piece of grass in Sag Harbor last Sunday with 14 other people, good and true. I was only there one Sunday. They've been going every single Sunday. They're by the windmill down by the dock in Sag Harbor, opposite the Bay Theatre. And they go there every Sunday and they have a vigil. And they're non-violent. They won't fight back when people come and spit on them. They just carry on. Occasionally somebody makes a speech or says a prayer or sings a song or something like that. And I thought, I'm getting a bit emotional because they are magnificent. And they go every week, rain or shine, and they get a lot more Zionists splitting on them in the summer when all the rich people come out to the Hamptons, and holiday for a month, or it's actually from Memorial Day to Labor Day. It's sort of packed, but so there are good people everywhere, and for them to do that, I have such huge love and admiration for them. I stood there in the hot sun. It's holding a thick. It's I don't know. I should do more of it, but I find I'm busy. I have a lot of work that I do as well, trying to still keep writing stuff and
succeeding. Someone at does Billy Joel live in Sag Harbor, and is he silent on this issue?
He certainly did. I don't know where Billy lives now. I used to see him around occasionally years ago when I spent a lot more time here. He's a bay man at heart, Billy. He's a proper local. He was never not out in his boat fishing. Knows everything that there is to know about fishing the canyons for tuna and stuff and whatever. Yeah, he's a sort of. I've no idea what his politics are, and it's not something that I would bring up if I was around him. He's a good musician, and he's very loved by sort of local people in the New York area. Yeah, Billy. I hope he's all right.
The question came in about the new song Sumud. Will there be a video for it?
There will be eventually, yeah. I'm in the middle of working on it, so and there may be a bit more, there may be a bit more Arab influence in it as well. There's a singer I know in New York, and I may be working with her a bit because she knows a vocal group who all speak Arabic and sing in Arabic. So to have an Arabic voices somehow into that back, you can hear a chorus in the background, which at the moment is just a Logic Pro sample on a keyboard that I play, and a couple of voices trying things out. But eventually my dream is to turn it into a recording where it sounds like the whole world singing the chorus. If I could figure out how to make it feel as if um, it's like a choir from the whole world singing in all different languages, all making this joyful sound, saying, "No, we want peace. We, the people of the world, demand peace. You persuade us that it's okay to do it because it's a way for us, the ruling class, the oligarchs, the Zuckerbergs, to steal your money and put it into our pockets. It's brilliant. War is really good for that, but it's no good for anything else. That's all it's good for. And the people of the world have started to figure that out, and they're saying, no, we want to live, we want our children to be able to go out, you know, go to the shop and buy a loaf of bread and come back and make a sandwich and not starve to death.
Mhm.
Your method, you're stealing everything from everybody and killing anybody who's got anything you want, does not work for us. So we're going to put a stop to it. And we will, I think. But who knows? We'll see. That's what sort of makes our lives interesting. I wish we didn't have to do it, but we do have to do it because otherwise they'll just roll rampant over us.
Mm.
And obviously I include Trump in this. He's just one of them. He's just part of the scenery, really. It's not he's not in charge of anything. Biden was no different. Biden was murdering children in Gaza, and so is Trump. And so will the next lot be. They will. The system is broken, and we have to accept that. We have to find a way, sort of, to take it over by the people. But of course, for so many years to be, oh, communist, socialist. Oh, look, he wants to be Stalin. He wants to take away our freedom. They hate our freedom. What freedom, you morons? You're not free. You do as you're told. And now, with this new fascist arrangement in North America, if you don't do as you're told, we'll lock you up or deport you. We'll send you to El Salvador or wherever and lock you up in a concentration camp, just like we're putting all the Palestinians in concentration camps and killing them. That's what we're going to do with you if you get in our way. We're only trying to steal everything you've got, and we're succeeding. Look at Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos. They're worth hundreds of billions of dollars each. They're individuals. And what have they done? Nothing. They own a bit of the cloud. That's all. And the new one who's come in is this arsehole Daniel Ek, who owns Spotify, who I've got particular loathing for because he's destroyed my industry. He's managed to come in and steal everything that could be made by an honest musician making records. No, you can't do that anymore. I'm going to steal it all. And what does he do when he steals it? He's investing it in warmongering AI companies like Palantir. What? This is where the music industry has gone? I know people have worked all their lives as sort of musicians and they've made a couple of albums and they haven't been hugely successful, but they're good enough to earn a living. They get royalty checks from Spotify for 7 cents. I mean, it's just insane. So this prick in Norway or wherever he's from had figured out how to steal all the money out of the pockets of musicians all over the world. And he gets away with it because that's the way they want the world to work, steal from the poor and give to the rich. Well, I'd nearly said good luck to you. No, bad luck to you.
Yeah.
I hope you rot in hell, Daniel Ek. What? I mean, and they feel good about it and they pat themselves on the back. Jeff Bezos goes off to Venice and spends, $100 million or something on his wedding. Luckily, the Venetians went, no, we don't want you here, you prick. No, we're not impressed by you. Go away. Leave our beautiful city alone. I thought that was good. I know I'm rambling. I'll stop.
Not at all. But in the last few minutes we have left, several people have mentioned can there be a concert for Gaza organized with other musicians, such as Live Aid from a generation ago?
Yeah, do you know, it's so funny you should mention that. And whoever that is out there in listener land, you think I've been thinking about anything else for the last few weeks? Because I've been thinking about it for years and years, but it may be that the time is. I tell you what I'd like from people out there, because I would do it in a heartbeat, but I don't want a fizzle. I don't want to play to 15,000 people in an arena somewhere. When we do the show for Palestine, and I would do it in a heartbeat like that, but I want at least 5 million people in a field. So and if we shut down a city, so much the better. But I don't want it to be a fizzle. Do you hear what I'm saying? And does it sound stupid? Maybe people will say, no, it doesn't matter how many it is, even if you do it. Well, there's that point of view as well. But that's like me standing with 10 people by the windmill in Sag Harbor. It's a feeling it's great to be with my comrades, arms linked, showing our love, to our brothers and sisters in Palestine. But if it's trying to engage the rock and roll thing, I'd like to do something where millions of us got to used it as an opportunity to come together and be our own Glastonbury, only bigger than Glastonbury. Look at Glastonbury. They've tried to screw up Bob Villan because he said that about the IDF. And they've sort of succeeded. I don't know how he'll get on in the future. I hope he does well. I don't know his work, but Glastonbury wouldn't let me play a few years ago. I mean, I have played Glastonbury in the past, but there was suddenly, oh, you can't this, you can't that, and you can't blah blah blah. They were very, very. I was maybe one of the few voices out there, so they were very suddenly. I couldn't do anything. No, you can't do that. You can't come here. You can't, whatever. So thank you for asking that question. And yes, I would like to organize something. And that is one of the things that I will be trying to do at some point in the future. And I have mates who will join me in that endeavor.
Wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. And we look forward to hearing more about it. And I will volunteer World Beyond War to help, and if we can in some way, David.
Yes.
And Roger, thank you so much for these comments, for your work. We have just a couple minutes left. I want to thank everybody who has been here to participate in this. Our presenters, certainly our awardees, whose work is just absolutely incredible. If there's nothing else, I think I'm showing that we have about a minute left. So I think it's time that we thank everybody and say goodbye.
Thanks to you, Bob. Thanks, Roger. Thanks to Ralph Nader and Francesca Albanese and Alicia and Hanye and Ed and Greta and everybody else.
Thank you all.
Don't forget, David, I still have in a packing case my new algae. I always called the big pink pig algae. That was his. Well, I have a blue algae, and it's blue because of you lot. Okay, and it's painted on the side. It has a picture of a drone and a woman and a child, and it says, "Stop killing my brothers and sisters." And that's what it said. And I've flown it in Chicago in front of skyscrapers, but I've still got it. So I'm definitely going to fly that algae at some point in London before too much time goes by, because that's where he is. He's in a crate in London. Or at this gig, if this gig happens, that will be part of algae will be up in the sky, and with a nod to you guys.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that will.
Gigs will fly about the same time that some musicians oppose genocide, but maybe before that we'll make this happen.
Damn right.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks,
Thank you, Roger. Thank you.
Thanks for everybody.